Hello there, you're watching World News Program with me, your host Miriam Zian. To the headlines. At least 120 killed in Israeli massacres across Gaza. The UNICEF says 45 children were killed in Gaza in just 2 days, while Hamas says Netanyahu aims for genocide. In Algeria, urges the UN Security Council to condemn justification of occupation crimes. Polisario, in letter to the UN, rejects Moroccan claims on referendum and says Sahrawis face constant repression and what it calls the world's largest prison. Also coming up, Russia says it's satisfied with the Istanbul talks and is therefore ready to continue dialogue. However, Kiev accuses Moscow of making unacceptable demands. Meanwhile, the Kremlin insists a meeting between Putin and Trump is essential and must be carefully prepared. And dozens killed in RSF shelling on Al-Fashir. Nearly 5,000 displaced from city in Port Sudan in a week. The Sudanese government calls for international meetings to address Emirati aggression. Hello and welcome back to your nightly news. First in our file, since dawn today, Israeli airstrikes on Gaza have killed at least 116 Palestinians and injured many more. According to local Palestinian sources, Israeli warplanes carried out a series of air raids targeting residential neighborhoods in populated areas, resulting in the martyrdom of 116 Palestinians and leaving others wounded. The Palestinian Ministry of Health announced on Friday that 250 Palestinians were killed in just 36 hours due to Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip. The ministry said the Israeli forces committed multiple massacres in various areas of the Strip over the past 2 days, killing hundreds and wounding many others. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas says the Palestinian people are facing a documented genocide unfolding in full view of the world.
In recent hours, the occupation army has committed horrific massacres that claimed the lives of more than 250 martyrs and left hundreds injured. The escalating atrocities against civilians reflect the determination of the government of the terrorist Netanyahu to proceed with its crime of genocide in Gaza, with utter disregard for international law or mechanisms of accountability and justice. We in Hamas call upon Arab and Islamic countries to uphold their religious, national, and humanitarian responsibilities toward our people, to take effective action and exert pressure to stop the brutal massacre and to ensure the entry of humanitarian aid amid a famine that has spread across the entire Gaza Strip.
And the UNICEF has confirmed the killing of at least 45 children in Gaza over the past 2 days, warning that the Strip has become a deadly place for children over the past 19 months. UNICEF's regional director for the Middle East and North Africa, Edward Begbede, said all reports indicate that children in Gaza are suffering primarily from hunger or indiscriminate attacks. He cited earlier reports that more than 950 children were killed in Israeli airstrikes across the Strip in just the past 2 months. And Doctors Without Borders says the Zionist occupation has turned Gaza into hell on earth, accusing it of deliberately causing a humanitarian catastrophe. In a statement issued on Friday, the organization warned that conditions in the Strip appear aimed at eliminating the Palestinian population. It also reported a 32% increase in the number of patients suffering from malnutrition over the past 2 weeks.
Israel has turned the Gaza Strip into a hell on earth. As the occupying power, it has caused a deliberate humanitarian catastrophe, as what we are witnessing now is the creation of conditions aimed at eliminating the Palestinian population in Gaza. There has been a 32% increase in the number of patients suffering from malnutrition over the past 2 weeks. The few remaining health facilities still in operation are under immense pressure and face severe shortages in capacity, while also being subjected to repeated attacks despite their extremely limited resources.
Algeria has called for a strict mechanism to ensure full compliance with international humanitarian law by all parties in conflict zones. Addressing a UN Security Council session on the protection of civilians, Algeria's representative to the UN, Toufiq al-Qudri, denounced attempts to justify the crimes committed by Israeli occupation forces against Palestinians, calling such arguments a desperate and condemnable excuse. He stressed that the suffering of the Palestinian people did not begin on October 7.
من بين 56,000 مفقود المسجلين العام الماضي.
Of the 56,000 persons reported missing last year, 11,000 were in Gaza. Yes, Gaza, that small strip of land burdened with immense suffering, which alone accounted for a fifth of the world's tragedies in a single year. To not recognize in that number a cry of pain is to turn a blind eye to the essence of humanity. Any attempt to justify what is happening in what appears to be a place outside the bounds of international law is a futile effort that merits condemnation. Yet the anguish of Palestinians over the missing, like their suffering as a whole, did not begin on the 7th of October. It dates back to the very beginning of the occupation.
The Polisario Front representative to the UN, Sidi Mohammed Omar, has dismissed claims made by Morocco's envoy regarding the referendum on the self-determination of the Sahrawi people. In a letter to the rotating president of the UN Security Council, Omar urged the Moroccan representative to stop justifying his country's opposition to a vote that the late King Hassan II had accepted and committed to, pledging to abide by its outcome.
Suffice it to refer to the statement made by King Hassan II of Morocco on September 27, 1983, at the 38th session of the General Assembly, when he announced, as is officially recorded, that Morocco was prepared to hold the referendum starting tomorrow. Morocco is ready to provide all facilities to all observers, wherever they come from, in order to achieve a ceasefire and to conduct fair, equitable and reliable consultations. Finally, Morocco officially and publicly pledges to consider itself bound and committed to the results of that referendum.
The Polisario official also rejected Morocco's statements about Sahrawi refugees, describing them as baseless. He stressed that Sahrawis in the occupied Western Sahara are living in what he called the largest open-air prison on earth, under brutal repression by Moroccan occupation forces.
The Security Council recently received a letter from the Moroccan permanent representative to the United Nations, in which he presents, as usual, the same unfounded allegations regarding the issue of Western Sahara. It is well known that the Sahrawis became refugees not because of any natural disaster, but primarily because the Moroccan occupying state forcibly expelled them from their homeland when it invaded and militarily occupied Western Sahara in October 1975, bombarded civilians with internationally prohibited napalm and incendiary phosphorus bombs, and destroyed their livelihoods.
Morocco's claim over Western Sahara rests on a disputed agreement with no legal standing, as the UN continues to recognize the territory's right to self-determination. Hussam Barkan has the report.
Blowing on the ashes of an illegitimate agreement, the Madrid Agreement, crafted by a Spanish colonizer, handed over what it didn't own to those with no rightful claim. Today, Morocco clings to this agreement to obscure the reality of its occupation of Western Sahara, signed amid political chaos in Spain as it prepared for Franco's departure. The deal was driven by economic interests, not legality or justice. Morocco's attempts to use the Madrid Agreement to justify its expansionist ambitions ignore a simple truth. The agreement holds no legal weight and lacks any credibility within international legal institutions.
The occupying state claims in its letter that the occupation of Western Sahara ended with the region's return to Morocco and the Madrid Accords of November 1975. However, the undeniable fact is that the UN General Assembly neither endorsed nor recognized the agreement and never considered it to have altered the international status of Western Sahara as a non-self-governing territory. This was reaffirmed in the legal opinion issued on January 29, 2002 by the UN Legal Council at the request of the Security Council.
After Spain's withdrawal, the Sahrawi people still recovering from colonial rule faced a new and equally harsh occupation. Morocco claimed that a deal between two colonial powers granted its sovereignty, a claim the UN has consistently rejected. Western Sahara remains listed as a non-self-governing territory under the UN's decolonization mandate. Even the Moroccan king, a signatory of the Madrid Agreement, later signed a ceasefire with the Polisario and agreed to a UN-supervised referendum.
If, as the occupying state claims, the occupation of Western Sahara ended with the 1975 Madrid Agreement, then why do both the General Assembly and the Security Council still treat the territory as a decolonization issue? Why did the Security Council, with unanimous support, establish the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO, in 1991?
Through distortions, evasions, and diplomacy, Morocco seeks recognition for its occupation, offering economic deals to exploit Sahrawi resources. Yet, these attempts fail against strong diplomatic opposition and clear legal rulings that expose their illegality and falsehoods in their international law.
And Alicant's Montagnetta Square hosted a welcome ceremony for the Freedom March led by Claude Mognan, calling for the release of Sahrawi political prisoners, including those from Gdel Mizik. Polisario Front Representative Lehbib Ali Salem urged everyone to support a national and international campaign for their freedom. Local civil society groups also expressed solidarity with the march, reaffirming their support for the Sahrawi cause and independence.
The Sahrawi community recently organized cultural folkloric performances to assert Sahrawi identity as an act of resistance. These events respond to the ongoing Moroccan appropriation of Sahrawi culture abroad, where Sahrawi traditions such as the tent and traditional dress are falsely presented as Moroccan. This misinterpretation is inaccurate, as Sahrawi identity is distinct from Moroccan identity. Today, we were welcomed at a General Union of Workers headquarters as part of a campaign launched on March 31. The march began in Paris and is headed to Morocco to advocate for political prisoners, defending Sahrawi human rights and the right to self-determination. This evening, we held a historic meeting symbolizing the past, present, and future. We hope this future brings freedom and justice for the political prisoner.
And the Polisario Front has described France's stance as biased and unjust toward the Sahrawi people, holding Paris politically and morally responsible for the continued suffering of Sahrawis for over half a century. According to a statement from the Sahrawi news agency, the Polisario's representative in France, Mohamed Ali Zarwali, criticized France's double standards during a lecture at the Sorbonne University titled Colonialism in Western Sahara and France's Position. He denounced the contradiction between France's declared values of liberty, justice, and equality and its actual policies, while also criticizing the international community's failure to enforce the UN peace plan. Zarwali reiterated that the Sahrawi cause remains a decolonization issue that can only be resolved through the right to self-determination. And on the eve of representing President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune at the Arab Summit in Iraq, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf held bilateral talks today in Baghdad with several Arab foreign ministers. According to the Algerian Foreign Ministry, Mr. Ahmed Attaf met with his counterparts from Tunisia, Mohamed Ali Nafti, Mauritania, Mohamed Salam Ould Merzouk, Somalia, Abdul Salam Omar, and Djibouti, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. He also held a separate meeting with Russia's special presidential envoy for the Middle East and Africa, Mikhail Bogdanov. Algeria's Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, is participating in the 4th edition of the International Forum Towards the South. According to the Energy Ministry, Arqab will take part in the high-level session on the strategic role of the Mediterranean in the global energy transition. He will outline Algeria's vision for energy transformation within a sustainable development framework, highlighting the country's contribution to regional energy security through various cooperation projects. The forum seeks to foster ongoing dialogue between public and private sector stakeholders by providing an interactive platform for economic and institutional leaders, as well as representatives from research centers and universities across the Mediterranean. In the same context, Algerian Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab underscored the need for fair and sustainable regional cooperation built on solidarity and mutual benefit. Speaking at a high-level session on the strategic role of the Mediterranean in the global energy transition, Mr. Arqab reaffirmed Algeria's full support for the Matei plan, describing it as a strategic opportunity to boost energy cooperation across the Mediterranean and deepen partnerships with Africa.
We call for the establishment of an effective Euro-Mediterranean partnership based on sharing benefits and responsibilities, especially in light of the profound transformations the world is witnessing today, characterized by increasing geopolitical tensions and the disintegration of the traditional global economic order. I affirm Algeria's full support for the Matei Plan, which presents a strategic opportunity to enhance energy cooperation across the two shores of the Mediterranean, expand partnerships with Africa, and Algeria's readiness to back all initiatives aimed at strengthening energy security, driving sustainable development, and addressing climate change challenges, particularly in the southern Mediterranean.
The Energy Minister also highlighted Algeria's national energy strategy aimed at increasing natural gas production, reducing carbon emissions, and expanding the use of renewable energy. He also announced plans to generate 15,000 megawatts of solar power by the year 2035.
Algeria has launched an energy strategy focused on increasing natural gas production, reducing the carbon footprint, and expanding the use of renewable energy through the implementation of 15,000 megawatts of solar energy by 2035, of which 3,200 megawatts are currently under development. This is complemented by effective programs in energy efficiency, thermal insulation, and energy consumption rationalization, especially in the residential and industrial sectors. Algeria is committed to combating climate change, particularly by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, especially methane, and promoting the use of clean fuels in maritime and aviation transport.
Visitors to the Expo 2025, in Osaka, Japan, praised Algeria's rich cultural, economic, and civilizational heritage showcased at the Algerian Pavilion. They expressed increased interest in visiting Algeria and exploring its deep history and culture. Algeria's participation in Expo 2025 includes contributions from various ministries and national institutions featuring diverse events and exhibitions across multiple sectors at the pavilion.
It was very nice to see the pavilion of Algeria because we see a lot of modern technologies. And for me, it's interesting because I have visited Algeria maybe 20 years ago.
So I've never been to Algeria. I don't know anything about Algeria before today. I've heard of it. That's about it. But I did learn it's the largest country in all of Africa and the Muslim world, I believe. 40 million people. 30% of those are between 20 and 30, I believe. It looks like a nice place. Lots of lights, lots of transportation. It's growing. Never been there before. Maybe I'm looking to go in the future.
That's why I'm curious what kind of country she was born. And, it's completely different, I thought. So my image for African countries more beautiful nature and desert and stuff. But I was really surprised that you guys have a big modern city. So that was, biggest surprise for me.
The round of negotiations between the Russian and Ukrainian delegations concluded in Istanbul, Turkey, after lasting more than 2 hours. Following the talks, the head of the Russian delegation expressed satisfaction with the outcome and affirmed Moscow's readiness to continue dialogue. He revealed that both sides had agreed to a prisoner exchange in the coming days based on a 10,000 or 1,000 for 1,000 formula and would soon present their respective visions for a potential ceasefire. He also noted that Ukraine had requested a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and the Ukrainian president.
The direct talks with the Ukrainian side, organized at the incentive of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, just ended. We're satisfied with the result and ready to continue the talks.
Reuters quoted the Ukrainian official saying that Russia presented what he described as unacceptable demands during peace talks in Istanbul. According to the officials, the demands included a Ukrainian withdrawal from large areas currently under its control as a condition for a ceasefire agreement. The official added that Moscow's proposals were aimed at derailing the negotiation process. For his part, Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustam Umerov said that Russia and Ukraine agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners of war from each side at the conclusion of talks in Istanbul. Umerov added in a statement to Ukrainian television on Friday that if things go well, he said the operation will be the largest prisoner exchange in more than 3 years since the start of the war in Ukraine.
We've finished our meeting. The agenda that has been given to our force and our partners was to discuss first is the ceasefire, second one is the humanitarian track, it is the exchanges, and third is a potential meeting on the leaders' level. As a result, we have agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners to 1,000, and we're working on other modalities, and our colleagues are in contact and will exchange all the documents.
And the head of the Ukrainian presidential office, Andriy Yermak, said that unconditional ceasefire with Russia remains Ukraine's top priority in the Istanbul peace talks. In the statement, Yermak said Ukraine is ready to engage in high-level dialogue to achieve lasting and unconditional peace. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said communications between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump are vital in efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. In a statement Friday, Peskov stressed the need for a direct meeting between the two leaders, noting that international issues, chief among them the Ukraine crisis, require urgent dialogue. He added that the Russian delegation in Istanbul remains in direct contact with President Vladimir Putin, who receives regular updates. Dozens of civilians were killed and others injured in the heavy shelling by the RSF across several neighborhoods in Al-Fashir, the capital of North Darfur, according to the state government. The government accused the RSF of continuing daily attacks on civilians using artillery fire, adding that the group committed horrific atrocities in recent days, particularly in Al-Shurfa neighborhood, the main market, and the Abu Shouk displacement camp. Several Sudanese civilians were injured when a drone operated by the RSF targeted the Dar es Salaam area west of Umdurman, according to Sudanese Doctors Network. The group said the strike injured 9 people, including 3 siblings, who were transported to nearby hospitals. The network condemned the continued targeting of civilians, infrastructure, and health facilities in Omdurman, which has already seen dozens of deaths in recent weeks. The International Organization for Migration said nearly 5,000 Sudanese have been displaced from Al-Fashir and Port Sudan over the past week amid a worsening security crisis. In the statement, the agency said renewed clashes forced at least 1,700 people to flee Abu Shouk camp and Al-Fashir, while 2,600 were displaced from Port Sudan. It warned that the escalating conflict is damaging critical infrastructure and forcing more people to flee. Sudan's foreign ministry has called on international and regional organizations to convene emergency meetings over what it described as Emirati aggression against the country. The call came in letters sent by Foreign Minister Omar Sadiq to the President of the UN Security Council, the UN Secretary General, the President of the General Assembly, and other international and regional bodies. Sudan's mission in New York confirmed that the UN Security Council will hold a special session on Monday to discuss recent developments and RSF attacks on civilian and vital infrastructure. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met Friday in Istanbul with diplomatic and security advisors from France, the UK, and Germany to discuss Iran's nuclear program. An American official told Reuters that Rubio who also serves as national security advisor in the Trump administration, discussed both the Iran file and the first round of direct Russia-Ukraine peace talks held in Istanbul. Earlier this week, President Donald Trump said during his visit to Qatar that the U.S. is close to reaching a nuclear deal with Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, that was it for tonight's program. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.